House Democrats are raising concern over coronavirus safety measures on Capitol Hill after 3 of its members tested positive for coronavirus following last week's deadly assault. Lawmakers Brad Schneider, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, and Pramila Jayapal are blaming Republicans for the spread of the virus since some refused to wear a mask while bunkering with their colleagues during the riot. Last night, members voted to impose a new fine system for not wearing a mask on the House floor. David Begnaud has a story.
When that new rule was voted on in the House of Representatives, more than 70 members of the House voted by proxy, meaning they were absent from the House floor. And it was likely due to concerns over coronavirus. One of them is 75-year-old Bonnie Watson-Coleman, a congresswoman from New Jersey. She's a cancer survivor who blames her Republican colleagues. She believes they're responsible for her contracting the coronavirus. And here's why.
As rioters attacked the halls of Congress last week, representatives were whisked away, led into the bowels of the Capitol, and packed into secure rooms. And that is where 6 Republican representatives were seen refusing masks, even as they crowded together with other potentially vulnerable members of Congress, members like Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, a Democrat from New Jersey. She published this op-ed in the Washington Post, blaming Republicans in Congress for giving her COVID.
The headline in the Washington Post reads, "I'm 75, I had cancer, I got COVID-19 because my GOP colleagues dismissed the facts."
Yeah, that's pretty much the truth. I didn't have it when I went down there. And the most interaction that I had was in the holding room.
Other representatives in that room have also tested positive. Illinois Congressman Brad Schneider and Washington Representative Pramila Jayapal. Now, Jayapal was seen in videos from the incident without a mask on. She says it's because she was instructed to take it off so she could put on a gas mask, seen here in this video.
Congresswoman, what would you say to your colleagues who weren't wearing a mask?
That I'm angry with you, that there ought to be consequences for you not wearing your mask, because your right not to wear a mask does not supersede my right to be healthy and safe.
I should tell you the Congresswoman is feeling fairly well. She says it feels like a cold right now, and hopefully it doesn't get worse than that. We called the offices of all 6 of those Republican representatives to ask them why. They never responded. We called multiple times. They didn't get back to us. There was a statement given to CNN by the office of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is the Congresswoman from Georgia. And in the statement, they said, in part, she does not believe healthy Americans should be forced to muzzle themselves with a mask. Close quote. Latin Anne Marie.
David, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Leo Nissola. He's a medical expert, immunotherapy scientist, and an advisor for COVID Act Now, a nonprofit that provides data on the pandemic here in the U.S. All right, doctor. So the members of Congress who tested positive for the coronavirus all received their first dose of the vaccine in recent weeks. What does their experience tell us about just how much protection one dose of the vaccine offers in situations where you have a group of people who are in an enclosed space for an extended period of time? And I should point out that, you know, the members who tested positive say they were wearing masks, but others weren't.
That's right. Oh, thank you for having me. First, it was very unfortunate to see elected officials disregarding basic public health measures. It's been over several months that we have been advocating for mitigation risk strategies to stop the spread of this virus and slow the spread of this virus. And so basic mask wearing, it should be common sense, especially when indoors, where we know that is an environment where this virus spreads more quickly. Now, those 2 vaccines that are approved in the United States require 2 doses in order for them to be effective as they were on their studies that got them the emergency use authorization. So right now, what they need to do is to self-quarantine and isolate and get tested, which adds more problems to the healthcare system that is already overburdened by the number of cases of COVID right now. And also, just because someone received 1 dose of this vaccine doesn't mean that they cannot develop the severe form of this disease, and it doesn't mean that they cannot infect others. So it's complicated.
So, Dr. Johnson & Johnson says it expects to release critical results from its COVID-19 vaccine trial in the coming weeks, but it most likely won't be able to provide as many doses as promised this spring due to manufacturing delays. So if this vaccine protects people against COVID-19 as strongly as scientists expect it to, what advantages would it have over the 2 others that are already authorized in the U.S.?
That's right. Well, it's good news that we are going to have another tool to help us fight this virus and to help us to deliver vaccines into people's arms. I think J&J's vaccine, should it be safe and effective, will be a game changer because it requires only a single dose, and it also doesn't require to be frozen. It can be kept for months in a single refrigerator. So I am excited to see the clinical data, analyze it, and understand if it's truly safe and effective as we are expecting it to be. We will need those vaccines as soon as possible. And because of the manufacturing challenges, we are expecting it to be available roughly around March.
Health experts say that the coronavirus variant that was identified in South Africa, different than the UK one in South Africa, may pose a threat to COVID-19 antibody treatments. So what does that tell, like what are the implications of that knowledge? And could that have an effect on the effectiveness of the vaccines that we're using now?
Yeah, so first, the UK variant that was first identified spreads more quickly, but it's pretty effective. The vaccines are pretty effective, and the therapeutics are not a challenge. Now, the variant that was first discovered in South Africa may escape the monoclonal antibody therapies that we have available in the United States that have been saving many lives since they got the emergency use authorization. Now, that is something that concerns me a little bit because that's the only treatment that we have that actually has been sparing lives. So, again, we should expect more variants through the course of the year because we are, stimulating the immune system with vaccines, with antibody treatments, and with convalescent plasma at the same time as we are getting the virus to spread organically to individuals. Some of them who have autoimmunity, some of them who have immunodeficiencies, and that imposes a little bit of a pressure into this virus, which may cause itself to create those variants.
So, Dr. Nissola, the CDC announced yesterday it would require all travelers entering the U.S. to test negative for COVID-19 within 3 days of boarding their flight starting on January 26th. How effective do you anticipate this new measure to be, and what other precautions should be taken along with testing?
I saw that, and that's a great first step. I would expect it to be a little bit more aggressive into understanding who is coming into the country. Number one, you not only have to test negative, in my opinion, you should also commit to wearing a mask while you're in the U.S., and you should also commit to quarantining for 3 days at least upon arrival and getting tested inland as well. I think every mitigation strategy that we can do and take to prevent new variants from landing in the United States, we should be doing that. We are, again, at a breaking point where our ICUs are fully occupied in some counties. Our doctors are overworked. Our nurses are overburdened. I don't think the average adult nurse in the U.S. has seen the amount of deaths that they have seen at this time. So we're not at a point where we want to be partying and receiving people without knowing what they're bringing with them.
All right, Doctor, thank you very much as always. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.